Hi, I'm Pearl, and I'm sitting up a tree, which is always the best place to think, I find. The good news is I don't have to think too much because I've already written all this stuff down and it's in my book. So it's quite easy when I want to do a talk about it because I can just go and read all my notes, which is quite handy. So I figured whatever happened with this talk, I know a lot of people are still locked down, stuck inside. I thought whatever goes wrong, whatever happens, at least you're in the woods, it's quite nice. So this talk is about escaping fear of success, right? One of the things I keep saying is that fear of success is a really, really good hider. It is. And when I first started doing my research and trying to find out about fear of success, everybody was kind of like, oh yeah, fear of success, yeah. But nobody could seem to really explain it to me. And I read a lot of things and watched a lot of videos and things. And some of those told me about types of fear of success. But some of the others are ones that I've kind of defined and discovered by reading around and looking at people's stories, looking at how people describe coming up and confronting that barrier, that wall of success. So I'm going to go through 5 types of fear of success, which I call, the problem. Now, that doesn't mean to say that if you have a fear of success, it might be a bit different to this, or it might not obviously fit into these 5 categories. But what I'd like to do, and it's funny because the concept of seeds keeps coming up for me today. And I think that sometimes when we listen to talks and things, what's really useful is things kind of go in somewhere. And then they sort of like turn around and twirl. And then suddenly those seeds suddenly shoot up in a different idea or a different concept. Or understanding, So a lot of the practices and spiritual truths that I've learned about, I've read and reread and reread. And then one morning, try not to fall out of the tree, one morning I wake up and I go, oh, that's what they're talking about. Right, it makes sense. So that's okay if this doesn't if the penny doesn't drop immediately, that's okay, okay? So I'm going to talk about these 5 problems, 5 types of fear of success. And then I'm going to talk about 5 solutions. Now, these are not the only solutions, but probably my top 5, okay? And in my book, I talk about a lot of other ways of looking and dealing with and approaching fear of success. And the other thing that is in my book that I'm not going to talk about today, but if you have questions, and I'm going to do a Q&A on YouTube live about 50 minutes in. So this is talking about 50 minutes, and then I'm going to try and do the YouTube live questions and answers. So if you've got questions, that's fine, come at me with those. The third part of my book, which I talk about, is the origins of fear of success. And that's really, trying to go down and look at the root, the roots of why we've developed these fears of success and what's going on with that. And to really try and oversimplify it a little bit, the way that I see, the difference between solutions and origins is a little bit like solutions are kind of more of a life coaching approach to a problem, in that it's like, okay, let's maybe have a quick fix. What's wrong with that? Let's just get you out of the stuck place and start moving you on. And let's just get on with it. Let's just quick fix it. And that's also like fitness as well. We just get on with it. We don't have to research, why do you find it so hard to go to the gym? But the origins, sometimes we have to go back to the beginning because something is so rooted and deep-seated. And so, and I always say that's a bit like the sort of therapy approach, like when you have to really go back to the beginning and talk about the sort of the deep and meaningful reasons. Well, I like that bit of flair there, that's quite nice. So if you've got questions about origins, that's great, and we can talk about that in the Q&A at the end, okay? So if something triggers something and you think, and if any of this doesn't make sense, please, please, please stay and ask me about it, okay? 5 types of fear of success. So a couple of the ones I found straight away when I started looking online. The first one was fear of loss of success. And a lot of people say there's no such thing as fear of success. Well, I beg to differ, because I found it. And I'm going to say, like, I found it in the deep, dark jungle. But no, I found it, just by sitting and working through it all and asking lots of questions. And realising actually that I'd confronted an awful lot of that fear of myself already, So fear of loss of success is a really great one, because most people can really understand that. And for some people, it's kind of like, hey, if I do this, and what if I never get any better and then I'm a has-been? So, well, being a has-been is better than being a never was, right? But another reason that we fear loss of success is because sometimes that loss, what we're scared of is that loss is going to trigger our experience and our grief process for other losses. So, for example, we might fear romantic success because we're afraid, subconsciously or even more consciously, if we lose another relationship, if we have another breakup, it's going to make us feel so terrible, because we're going to be bringing up everything from the past relationships that have broken down, even if they're not necessarily romantic relationships. They could be familial relationships, anything else, any kind of like feeling of loss. And that's actually a reason why a lot of people stay where they are, and they stay in bad relationships, they stay in bad jobs, because a lot of people would rather be miserable where they are than to kind of, I say in my book, I like this as sometimes we don't want to experience heaven because part of it's going to feel like hell. When we really get something amazing, that fear of losing it can be so profound. So that's an interesting one. Okay, the second one is, and this is another popular one, is fear of consequences of success. So what that means is, for example, somebody might be afraid of stepping up and stepping into a role because there are consequences of that. Maybe it's money, maybe it's being accountable, maybe it is being visible, and that was a big one for me as well. And so those consequences of success can be something we're very fearful about. Or possibly what we've done in the past is we've had some kind of success that has created a situation where maybe we've had to manage other people and we didn't enjoy that experience. It really didn't go well. So some of that is actually about judging that. Some of it's about judging that experience before we experience it. So it's a bit like, there's a bug there, but it's a bit if you've ever been on a boat. If you ever get on a boat and the first time you go out on a boat and you have a really bad experience, so maybe the weather was terrible, maybe it was really choppy. I actually had this my first time snorkeling out on a boat. It was pretty unpleasant. It was very, very choppy, and we had loads of jellyfish. Loads and loads of jellyfish, and I got stung quite a lot. And we'd gone really quite a long way out. So, once we got out there and we'd committed to this thing, and I mean, I'm not saying some of it wasn't amazing, but we were kind of looking at statues underwater. This place has got these amazing statues underwater, and I got there and I was like, snorkel, and I go underwater and I go, there's statues. I can see statues on land. Why have I come all this way? And I eventually went on to have some incredible snorkeling experiences in other waters. But the first time I went out, and I knew I wanted to do it, so I'd kind of booked myself in, and I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go do this. And then that morning I woke up and I was like, oh no, I really don't want to do this. I'm so scared. This is going to go so wrong. And why did I book myself on this day? Why did I do this? And I was so scared going down to the boat. And it was a completely different experience. It was such a joy. It was such an amazing day, such great people. And, that's sometimes the consequences of success is that we set out to do something, we achieve it, but we have a negative experience. So it takes a lot for us to kind of encounter that and go for it again. It can be anything. It could even be getting fit, losing weight. Because sometimes the people around us have a very negative reaction to us losing weight, looking good, looking better than them, losing more weight than them. We can get judged and we can have a negative experience. And that makes us not want to succeed. It's quite simple when you look at it. But I think once you then put it all out on the table, you think, hang on a second, why am I letting this hold me back? It might be really amazing this time round. We'll see. So number 3, and I kind of, this is a fear of success, but it's kind of a false fear, because it's fear of false success. What do I mean by that? This is the kind of success, you know, where everyone tells you what you're supposed to want, and all the TV shows and all the adverts tell you that, you know, success is driving this car, success is being a vice president, success is staying in a 5-star hotel, success is having £1 million, success is being on the bestseller list, you know, the Amazon bestseller list or the New York Times bestseller list. Success is getting an agent, getting a publisher. Success is buying a great big house. You know, success is going on a fancy holiday. Success is all these things. And the problem with this one is it's that, you know, I think down deep in our hearts, we kind of know it's not what we want. It's not what we want to achieve. And a really good example of this is Elizabeth Gilbert wrote about this in Eat, Pray, Love. And so she'd had some critical and financial success as a writer. So she and her husband had a lovely house, 2 lovely houses, I think. And they had, you know, got married and everything. And it was like people around her were having babies. And it was like, when are you going to have a baby? When are you going to have a baby? And for somebody else, yeah, absolutely. You know, having a baby is a dream. Having a baby is the most amazing, beautiful, wonderful thing. For her, it made her ill, made her really ill because, and she was terrified because for her it just wasn't the right thing. You know, so there's no judgment about fear of false success. What it is it's just something that's not right for us. And it can be really hard to explain to some people because also one of the things that happens is, and I think this is great, when you're trying to, this isn't one of the solutions, but actually, when you're trying to sort of figure out, am I scared of false success or not? Sometimes we need to take a step. We need to dip our toe in the water, take a step down the path, and we go a little bit down and we go, is this the right way? Do I feel that this is the right way? How does this feel for me? Does this feel good? Does it feel right? Am I happy? Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel successful? And sometimes we need to kind of like play with that. And I always say, like, no matter where I've been and what I've done, and no matter sort of how many different things I've tried in my life, I've always learnt from them. And sometimes they can be the right thing for me for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then there's a moment when I realise I need to change direction, I need to go a different way. And that can actually be fear of false success, because we've got to a point where that's as far as we want to go. You know, and people say, yeah, but you need to do another qualification, you need to then go and do this, you need to go and do that. It's like, no, actually, this is enough for me. This is as much as I want to achieve. I'm very happy where I am. This isn't really an example of that, but I want to just share one little thing here, which is the wonderful Beto Perez, who's the head of Zumba. And actually, I applied for what's called a Zin Jammer job. So I'm a Zumba instructor, which is just, you know, we're just all, you know, our basic training. And I've been doing it for a while, and I felt like, you know, I need a new challenge, I need to do something else. And I applied for a job with Zumba head office, which was to be called a Zin Jammer for salsa, which would mean that then I would be going and teaching other instructors how to do salsa. And I love salsa, I really do. But in retrospect, I probably wasn't the best person for the job. But I was still really upset when I didn't get it and I didn't get an interview. And I was really like, you know, I really wanted to go down that path because I thought it'd be really cool to do something a bit higher up, a bit different. And I was feeling a little bit resentful, actually, when I went to this training in Cologne, in Germany, with the whole of the big Zumba head office, and everybody was there. It was really great. It was a really good event. And at the end, Roberto came out. He's really great. And he said, look, you know, I just want you to know something. And he took all the people on stage who were the top education specialists and the trainers. And he said, you know what, these guys are amazing. They are absolutely brilliant. They work so hard. They take time away from their families. They travel around the world. They put so much heart and soul into this. But we don't need more of them right now. What we need is you guys, you Zumba instructors who get to do the classes every day with the students, because you are what it's all about. And that day-to-day class that is the joy, that is the goal, that is the bonus. You know, we're here to support you, but you guys are what matter. You know, the experience that all those students have when they come into your class. And time again, when I go to a Beto master class or he does one online, he constantly says, I'm so lucky when I get to teach, to just teach. And I don't have to deal with all the other stuff that he has to deal with as the head of the company. Because he just gets to do that thing, you know? He just gets to do the work that he wanted to start out to do, you know? So there's 2 more types of fear of success. And this one is very close to the last one. And this one is fear of being, doing, or having what we falsely believe we need to be, do, or have in order to succeed. This is really, really important. And this is really, a lot of this again is, so it's very, very close to the fear of false success. But what it is when we're doing what is really true to us. So for example, say for me, when I was teaching full-time as a Zumba instructor, I loved that. It was great. I really enjoyed it. But I also went through experiences of thinking, I need all the latest Zumba wear. Do your students really care? I tell you, they don't. They don't. They like it when you show up and they can see you well. That's about it. They get excited every so often when you go, look at my t-shirt, you know, but really, they don't really care. The halls I went to, the studios that I went to, I was always looking for a new hall. I was always finding a new hall. I was always starting a new class. And often the worst experiences I had were with the really beautiful rooms, you know, like, oh, they were lovely, but they couldn't fit that many people in, or there was, a class before me and they wouldn't leave at the right, it was all kind of those kind of things. And then other places were just, just fit really easily and were great venues. And I teamed up with some people because they were really successful. And I thought, well, if I kind of work with them and I do that, I'm going to really be in and it's going to be great. And I learned from that a lot. I really did. And I'm really glad I had those experiences, or I'm glad I had a lot of those experiences I had from working with different people. But it was really a distraction rather than actually being the real thing. And I think I like to focus on this one because it's so, so important that we understand what we actually need to be successful. Because it's so, so easy for people to lie to us and cheat us and try and sell us something that we don't need, And unfortunately in the sort of business coaching world and in the spiritual world, it's a coaching thing, and I'm going to teach you this, and this is my only program, and it's going to be this, and you're going to learn how to do that. And most of the time, I would say most of it you don't need. And I say that coming from having done a lot of courses, a lot of trainings, and I've usually learnt something from each of them. But I often read just the beginning of a book. I go onto iBooks and I read the sample of most business books when people recommend them. And usually by the time I get to the end of that sample, I'm like, no, I don't need this. I really don't need this. And then some I'm just like, I've got to finish this book. I've got to finish this book. And it's usually the ones that aren't trying to sell me something in a way of like, I'm the only person that can teach you this, and you've got to do it this way, and you've got to do it that way. Having said that, I will say, I think I'm one of the very few people who focuses on fear of success. But I think there are a couple of other books out there in the world, so I can't say I'm the only one. But anyway, bringing it back, number 5 of the types of fear of success, of the problem. Now this one is, for me, this is the heart of it, and this is what I would really call true down leap fear of success. And that is the fear of actually being, doing, or having what we really want. This is the fear of actually succeeding in the way of experiencing our heart's desire. So if that means if you want to write, it's writing. If you want to dance, it's dancing. If you want to speak, it's speaking. If you want to make movies, it's making movies. It's all those things. It's the actual fear of the very thing that we so clearly want and need. Why? Why do we have this fear? Well, I'll tell you. I can talk in more detail about writing, but I want to just talk about just the whole thing at the moment. And when I started researching fear of success, I really felt like I was researching something foreign. And it was really about a year ago that just probably less than a year ago, I started thinking, I'd experienced in a workshop talking about it, and I knew that it was very close to my heart, and it was something very important to me. Sorry about the dog. And then I went to a business training, and at the end they said, any questions and answers, things like that. And you got to talk to all these people who were all successful business people. And I said, right, I think I've got a problem with fear of success. Does anybody have any resources they can share with me that will help me? And they went, yeah, fear of success, yes, bad. And nobody could offer me any help. Nobody could point me in the direction of anybody who knew anything about it. So I carried on down that track, and I was, doing my video, looking up videos and trying to get to it. And when I did, I was like, I found this fear or that fear. I thought, yeah, kind of it. That's kind of it. It's part of it, but it's not like the whole picture. And then I realised as I was going down that path, and I started writing down everything, and I started writing the book and everything I could think of, I realised how much I actually knew. I'm really sorry about the dog. But it's a very excited dog. He's in the woods. Doesn't get much more exciting than that. Anyway, any minute now, the dog's going to go. It's not my dog. Excuse me about that. So I carried on my research and writing the book. And as I was writing it, I was putting everything down, I went, oh. About 10 years ago, I started my business called Pearl Escapes, which is all the things that you can do that make you feel great, yeah? So it was everything. It was massages, a lot of massages, and it was travel, it was hotels, it was food, it was books, it was movies, everything that made you feel great, everything that made me feel amazing. And it was all the things that made me feel great. And a couple of years on from that, I went to another training, business training, and we were trying to figure out, what is it I actually do? That thing when you're business training and they go, I help people do this, I do that, And I sat there and I figured it out. And it brought everything that I do together. So it brought all the dancing and the writing and everything. And it was, I help people feel alive. Yeah? How great is that? And suddenly I realised, I swear there's a dog going round in a circle. Like us, going around in circles. So the thing that I realised as I was writing The Fear of Success is, when I am successful, when I'm writing and it's great, when I'm dancing it's great, I feel alive. I feel so alive. I feel so joyful. I feel so happy. I feel like I'm truly myself. And that's when I realised, and it's the same thing that all the major spiritual masters around the world have been teaching me as I was travelling, which was, at the heart of it, the greatest spiritual practices are just about enjoying life, feeling alive, and being awake to what we're put on this earth to do. There was actually Howard Thurman, who's a great spiritual teacher. He was actually the spiritual advisor to Martin Luther King Jr. And he said this wonderful thing. He advised Martin Luther King, but he was kind of a little bit more guru, a little bit more mung bean. He kind of stayed away, and it was very deep. And he said, the thing that he said was, do not ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I thought, this is what I do. This is great. So that was really cool. And that's why we're so scared of success, because it's that feeling of feeling alive, of being true to ourselves. And what hates that is the ego. You know, the ego wants us to keep being miserable. The ego wants us to feel better and worse than other people, judging other people. The ego wants us to feel that we need the ego. And so when we step into success, when we are so joyful and happy and everything, that goes away, and we get to have like sort of clean living, clean spiritual living, in terms of just being happy. Just be happy. Just enjoy life. So that's why I realised that I'd actually been practicing working with people and helping people with fear of success for 10 years this year. That's pretty cool. But it only took me like 9 years or so to figure it out. Anyway, so guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over from my trouble mode to my solution mode. Yeah. So we've gone from the problem, we've explained the problem, there are 5 types, 5 more types. Now the great thing is that you can use most of these for any, because all we're going to do really in terms of dealing with the problem is to just move forward, take the first step to get towards success. Okay. So it's not like there's any great tricks, you know, except these are good tricks. Okay, so they are great tricks. These are my top 5 that I've used over and over again. They may not work for you. That's fine. I've got more. Ask me more in the Q&A. That's fine. So the first one is the Zen answer. Now, people think of Zen as being very like deep and weird, but the difficult thing about going with the flow and being a bit Zen is letting go and surrendering. And there's a great book called Zen and the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. And as he said time and time ago, again, what he realised was what he needed to do was let go of like not knowing the answer and realise that he did know the answer. Sorry, it's getting a bit noisy. I might have to talk a bit louder. And so the Zen approach to this problem is to say, don't think about it, do it, then think about it. It's like kids find this easy. They don't sit and agonise when they're very young about, I can't walk, you know? They just do it. They just get on and they just Hi. So little kids, they just make friends. They just do their thing. They just do what they're doing. They don't cerebralise it. They don't have to make it a big thing and think about it. Little kids just get up and start to learn to walk. And they don't care how many times they fall over. They don't care how difficult it is. They don't listen to the ego saying, you can't walk, you'll never get up and walk, you know. They just toddle. They just get up and they do a little bit and they do a little bit more. And that's how kids learn to walk. They don't think about it very much. They just do it. And that's a really great way of doing things if you kind of keep getting in your own head and you keep letting that ego really stop you. And one of the things I talk about, I've written a lot of books about travelling and doing crazy things. And sometimes I would really get to a point and I'd be like, you know, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. It's too much for me. I give up. And it's great because when I say I give up, it's like I'm tricking the ego. So I'm giving up. I go to bed, get a good night's sleep, wake up in the morning, do it before I have my coffee. Done. And I go, oh, that was really easy. Why? Because I didn't think about it. Because I just got up and I just did it. And sometimes, you know, sometimes the best thing I find is just get up and do the most important thing you have to do before you can think about it. Sometimes I have to do 4 or 5 other things to warm up. But if it's a really big thing, often I find just get up, do it, don't think about it. You know, because it's the thinking about it that gets in the way. That's one. The second one is quite a big one, so I'm going to take some time with this one. And this solution is be the storyteller. Story is one of the most beautiful gifts we have as human beings. If I look out here and I see a couple of people doing something and walking together, I can very quickly, very easily make up a story about them. I can assume that they're husband and wife, or brother and sister, maybe father and daughter. I can assume what they're doing, where they're going. Do they have a boat or not? Are they going to have a picnic or not? Just from the little things and little details. Are they local? Are they not? I can make up a whole story about who they are and why they're here and what's going on, what kind of day they're having. And it's very easy for us to start to tell stories about other people. But that's nothing compared to the stories we tell about ourselves, right? We tell a lot of stories about ourselves. I'm this, I'm that. I always do this. I never do that. This never happens to me. I never get that. I never win the lottery. And that storyteller traps us. It creates our world of who we are, our personality, our legends. I'm this, I am that. I'm always the runner-up. I'm never the winner. I'm always late. I'm always early. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. And there's an incredible process which is taught by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and Don Jose Ruiz, a family, called a recapitulation. It's incredibly powerful, I want to say treatment. And one of the things we could do, and you can do it just for every day, as you wake up in the morning and you do this and you do this, to see where we started telling ourselves a story. When did I start telling myself a story about myself, about other people, about the way this day was going? It can even be about superstitions. Like sportsmen have a lot of superstitions, don't they? Like, if I wear this or I do that, whatever. So that being the storyteller, we trap ourselves within a story. And this goes very much to the origins of who we've learnt to be, who we've been taught to be, how we're supposed to be. And again, it also ties into things like imposter syndrome. And one of the stories I always reference is Cinderella. A lot of us have kind of like a Cinderella complex of, I do all the work, and somebody else goes to the ball. And we're waiting for, what we're doing is we're waiting for a fairy godmother to come and make everything right. Or we're waiting for a Prince Charming to come along and save the day and make our lives whole and all those kind of things. If I tell you one thing about my life, I'll just say you don't ever wait for Prince Charming. I've said this for years. All my pretty much most of my travelling has been done solo, and there's a very popular. I tell you what, I'm just going to kind of like the same thing in a diversion. I keep hearing this, and people have used this against me as well. And being the storyteller means changing the story so you're not telling the story against yourself. So if you like to do things alone, great. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not a weird loner. Really, I'm not. But there's a saying, an African proverb that gets used a lot, and it is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's really nice, isn't it? But people always use this to say you should do things in a group, you should do things in a team. Speaking as somebody who's gone very, very far, sometimes it's easier on your own. But the big thing that people don't seem to recognise and don't seem to talk about is, before you go on your own or with a group, figure out where you want to go. Because what a lot of people do is they just get on the bus that's got the most people on it. They just start doing stuff because everyone else is doing it. It's a sheep mentality. And that's part of being the storyteller in a way, because it's like, well, I'm the cool kid, so I do everything everyone else does. Or, I have to do this with my family, or I have to do, it's a storyteller thing of saying, these are the rules I've created and this is who I am. But you might not be that person. It might be time to change. it might be that's why you're here, to actually realise that you've been telling yourself you're somebody that you're not for a really long time. And it's so much fun when you figure it out. A bit scary too, but fun also. Anyway, we've got 3 more, and then we're going to go to Q&A. So, what's the next one? This is a really, really good one if you're completely stuck, okay? And it's not necessarily about doing the next step in terms of going towards success. It is do the thing you think you cannot do. Now, this is by Eleanor Roosevelt. She said this. And sometimes we get so incredibly stuck that our next step along the path of success, the next step, getting over our fear of success, is so huge that it feels impossible. And it kind of is a bit impossible. It is a bit impossible because we need to change our thinking. We need to figure out, and we need to realise that impossible, as they say in some advertising, is nothing. And we need to get over that big wall we have in our mind, a big barrier that we have, that limiting belief. If you've ever heard that limiting belief where I say, I cannot do this, I cannot do this. We've made something impossible by thinking it's impossible. Or even by creating a life that makes it almost impossible. And, sometimes what we have to do is we have to realise that and then start to take that life apart, and escape from the kind of cage that we've made of our life. And this is the kind of thing, when you go to like a spiritual retreat or even a business coaching session, things like that, very often you'll have activities that seem very unrelated, but they're kind of really cool, like adrenaline-filled activities. So they might be like, jumping into the sea, or, I did free diving. It wasn't as part of a retreat, but it's something that helped break down trust issues for me. And another one I did, which was fantastic, was fire walking. So you've probably seen a lot of like coaching camps and things like that with a bit of fire walking going on. I love it. I did it. It was amazing. I didn't even think I was going to do it. I sort of went on this thing like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Don't think so. And then as we got close to it, I got more and more and more excited. I was like, I really want to do it, really want to do it, really want to do it. Ended up doing it. And it was amazing. And it changed my perception because I realised, I can do anything. I can do anything. I thought I couldn't do this, but I can. My feet are a bit sore. But it was fun. And I did it. I did it more than anyone else. I had a great time. And you think, I am this fire walker. I am amazing. And I would say, when I drove up to this retreat, there was like a half an hour drive up a sort of dirt track. And I was in quite a big roughy-tufty rental car. But I drove up it like this. It was like, driving Miss Daisy, it was like, oh, careful, careful, there's a bump. Oh, a bump. Oh, a bump. Oh, like this. Drove up to this retreat. And then the second night we did the fire walking. And the next night we were leaving. And I gave somebody a ride. I gave somebody a lift. So I'm coming back down this road, 2 days later with this passenger. I'm going down this road. And my person I gave a ride is like going, why didn't I let this woman give me a ride? She's going crazy. It's like, and I was just like, no, it's fine. Bumpy old track. It's all good, Yeah. Because I just knew it was safe. I just knew that I was worrying about nothing. So I always think I remember that sort of difference between the person who drove up and a new person that turned around and came back after the fire walk. And I think sometimes there's things in your life you think, oh, I really want to do that. I really want to do that. Go do it. Go do it. Because it might not be that that's your actual success, but there's something within that experience that you need. Like for me, loads of massages that I've been on, and it's like each one was a different key, like unlocking something, and healing, and getting me closer and closer to being able to do like what I really wanted to do, which was the writing and the travelling and all those things, and just being this person that I was, but I didn't know I could be. I didn't know I could actually do that stuff. I'd given up in a lot of ways. I didn't think I could actually ever do those things. I just went off and did them all. That's great. So anyway, what do we do? Let me just recap. So we've got the Zen thing of don't think about it, do it, then think about it. We've got be the storyteller. We've got do the thing you think you cannot do. Okay. This is where I've got to remember the other two. So the other two are... this is when I get my other... really good one. This is a really good one. This is quite a challenging one. Okay, so don't worry if you can't do this. It is the core of many types of meditation, which is actually to silence the fear, to not feel the fear. So it's kind of the opposite of feel the fear and do it anyway. And it's actually about reducing and taking away that fear, silencing the mind and silencing the ego. It's like we say, like this buzzing around, it's like the ego, you know. So it's about silencing that, and it's about stopping your mind from getting in the way. Again, I know it sounds a lot like the other things as well, but the approach to this one is to use, so you can use music, and you can use distraction to quiet the mind so you avoid feeling that fear. And these are the ways to sort of like battle fear. And again, it's a deep thing. It's to silence the mind is a great practice. And people spend like decades and tops of mountains trying to figure these things out. And I probably, if we were in a workshop, I would be doing some kind of exercise to help you to silence the mind. And actually, I've got loads of videos on YouTube which show you how to do that. And to actually just silence the mind and let go of fear and allow the fear to disappear. And one of the things we do is we come and we get in between the thoughts. So it doesn't really matter what the ego is thinking and what we're thinking. It's just become silent. And then the truth just comes up. Just like that, nice and easy. And that's the root of not feeling the fear, of actually silencing the fear. And I do that in quite a mung bean way of sort of trying to reduce things and get things away. But it's also sometimes just putting on a great track. So you could put on like a rock track and just really like bounce along to it and get so excited and into that and feeling that adrenaline that you just do something without letting yourself become fearful. Okay? So now I'm going to try and remember the fifth one. I revised this before I came out. So we've got be the storyteller, do the thing you cannot do, don't think about it, do it, then think about it, and don't feel the fear as well. Final one. Whew, that's my first one. It's my favourite. And I love this one because this is, I suppose the thing is, this is one I practiced an awful lot when I was travelling around the world. And I guess you could say that I have a really big fear of success. I've developed a really big fear of success. And I'm very lucky because I've made it kind of my focus, and I set out and I, changed my life. I set myself free to go and sold my house, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do anything I want, anywhere I want around the world. And I have to say it's one of the scariest things I've ever done, because I remember when I woke up and it was New Year's Day and I was in Mexico and I'd just done this spiritual retreat. And so there I was sitting in a place near Mexico City, and I had no idea where I was going to go, if I was getting on a plane that day, if I was going to South America. All I knew was I was kind of using the energy of the spiritual retreat to follow my heart and to do what I really, really wanted to do. And it was terrifying, because my ego was kind of freaking out, like, what am I going to do? And in the end, I realized that what I really wanted to do was to work on my books. And I wanted to sit down and write. And you think, well, why should that be so scary? Because I'd really built up big walls to that. I'd really built up lots of reasons why I couldn't do it. And one of the things that I did, when I was traveling around, was really to constantly be doing the thing that I wanted to do, but that I felt I couldn't do. And very often when I confronted that fear, what would come up was the real truth about why I had created that fear. And very often it was superstition. It was, if I am successful, someone else is going to get hurt. If I expose myself, if I come out of hiding, somebody's going to be horrible to me. Somebody's going to be mean to me. I'm going to get hurt. So there were all these things that I had learned. And the way I really confronted it was a really, really weird way. And it was what I call going on a wing and a prayer. And that was really about kind of just going with the flow and just getting up and thinking, okay, I'm going to get on a plane to Sicily. Okay, look at these hotels. Okay, I'm going to stay in that hotel. Oh, what do I pack? I'm going to take this with me. And it was really, I would say it was like falling forward. It was just kind of, and to give you a visual, if you've ever seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, there's a bit when he has to go and find the Holy Grail. And he comes out and there's like a chasm in front of him. It's like this big gap. And he's got this thing in his head, he's got the clue. And he knows he just has to have faith and kind of fall forward. And when he does that into the chasm, he realizes there's a secret kind of passageway. But he literally falls forward. And I'm not recommending any of you do this. Don't go jumping off any cliffs or any trees or into the ocean, nothing like that. But it's in that falling forward and having faith and trusting the universe and trusting people. I had to really learn to trust people when I went off on my Camino. And to learn that, that I would be taken care of and that everything would be okay. And that the sort of the superstitious fears that I had in my head were just nonsense. And they were things I'd used to try and keep myself from doing all these things, because somewhere in my consciousness, things had got twisted around. And I hadn't believed I could be successful and do what I wanted without hurting the people around me. And I really had to go through that. And it was a really sweaty time of just kind of like going one step forward and then ringing up home and going, is everyone all right? Is everyone all right? Because I just had a lot of experiences in my life where I had gone travelling and somebody had become very ill or passed away. And so a part of me was scared if I went off and I did what I wanted to do and I travelled and I went far away, something terrible was going to happen. And very often, we can create those kind of like lies in our head and those stories, those superstitions, all those things. And going on a wing and a prayer forced me to kind of just leap, just take the leap. And if you want to know what that looks like, I've written 9 books about it. You can go and see what going on a wing and a prayer actually looks like. And I did it in real detail as well, like down to the hotels and how much I ate and what I packed in my suitcase, all those things. So, I know it seems airy-fairy, but you've got as much detail as you could ever want in the books. And the way I always talk about this is like Buzz Lightyear. And he thinks he can fly, and Woody's always saying, you can't fly, you can't fly. And maybe we can't fly, but what we can do, what Buzz Lightyear eventually learns to do, is to fall with style. So we kind of take that leap of faith, and it's a bit like Indiana Jones things when we reach out and we trust our heart, we trust, I think this is going to be okay, and we reach out and we do it. We get caught and we get lifted up. We land on a sort of like a gust of wind that takes us up, or there's a secret passageway, and yes, it all works out. And going on that wing and a prayer it's not about being stupid. It's not about being reckless or careless or endangering other people at all. But it is about making a leap of faith, even if everyone around you is saying, that's crazy, that's crazy, that's crazy. Even if it doesn't make logical sense, we can say, I think I'm going to give it a go. I think I'm going to try it out. And I think I'm going to take some reasonably safe risks moving forward. Okay, so we're nearly up. We've got 10 seconds, and then I'm going to try really hard to do your Q&A on YouTube Live. If it doesn't work, email me, give me a buzz, drop me a line, and I hope it helps. I really hope it helps. Fear of success it's just so stupid to hold ourselves back when we've got so much to give, so much to offer. And I really hope to see you in the Q&A in a moment. Okay, take care. Bye. Doesn't like to stop sometimes.